I just bought my childhood house, and there is a strange tunnel in the attic. Part 2. Alright, so with everyone telling me that going into it was a bad idea, I decided to try and explore the house first to rule out something like a dumbwaiter or an underground railroad type situation. I started going into the attic and dropping a small aquarium marble down into it. No worries, my fish have plenty more. It banged off the side once, and I can say with mostly certainty that the shaft is paneled with wood, which to me rules out any kind of duct system. I couldn't hear it hit anything at the bottom, so I suspect it's probably going into the basement, maybe to some kind of storage space or something. Again, a laundry chute seems the most likely. I had a kind of a stroke of inspiration and decided to try contacting my realtor about the house to see if maybe he knows anything about it. I'm still waiting on a response, but hopefully he'll get back to me tomorrow or Monday. Either way, it'll be interesting to see what he says. So, like I said, I dropped a marble in there and then decided to try and follow it. I went all the way down to the basement. Along the way, I tapped on the walls, but it must be behind them because they're not hollow at all. Because where they are, there's only 2 rooms that might connect to it, and neither of those have a space for accessing it. The walls are definitely solid, and always have been. That, for me, conclusively ruled out the dumbwaiter theory. What would be the point of having a chute that's only accessible on 2 floors? And right about then is when I started reading a lot of the comments and succeeded in scaring the shit out of myself. I act like I'm fine with it, but really, I do not want to find a fucking body in this thing. That would suck on a bunch of levels. I know a lot of people are convinced that's what it is though, so I'm trying to brace myself for it. Anyway, I was 100% too freaked out to even attempt to go into the thing until I know for a fact what's down there. So I limited the rest of my search to the basement, which is where I noticed that room isn't a perfect square. It's also short on one side by just a bit. If you stand in the middle and look around, you can actually tell that there's something a little wonky about the way the angles and stuff are. My best guess is that the foundations have shifted, but it's interesting to have the 2 be similar that way. Old house, probably old carpentry, handmade, that whole thing, you know? So, the basement is mostly finished, but it's not aesthetically pleasing or meant to be. There's an old bathroom down here that doesn't do much except exist. The water doesn't run to it, so it's not usable. It's on the opposite wall from the tunnel though, so it's not related. I would assume the wall where the tunnel is solid, just like the other floors. The basement is underground, so I can't exactly go busting through the wall and try to see if maybe there was an access hatch at one point. But after using a flashlight and going over just about every inch of that wall, I can safely say that there is no access to it, and never has been. This, to me, means one of 2 things. The tunnel is either a failed attempt at installing some kind of laundry hatch, Or it's just, I don't know, or it's just some weird quirk of the house. Well, my next steps are to get some glow sticks and drop those down there to see where it goes. After that, I'll get a broom or something and test to see if there is in fact a ladder in there. I won't go in until I'm sure it's reasonably safe. And I'll get a friend to come over and spot me just in case. I did spend some time checking the tunnel out, just lying on my stomach and looking in, and here's what I can say about it. The sides, as far down as I can see, are wood paneled, which I expected. No writing on the sides, and more importantly, no brackets or mounting plates for equipment. The air in there is pretty much the same temperature as the house, but it almost feels pressurized. I don't know if maybe it's the closeness of the space that makes the air feel denser, but you can definitely tell. I also listened in there and you can't hear anything. I shine my phone down, but there's no light at all, so I can't really say much about the depth or anything. Once the glow sticks get here, we can finally see what's at the bottom. It's unrelated, but while I was going through things in the process of checking the tunnel out, I found a really cool hand crank flashlight in my parents' stuff. It looks really beat up, but it works. It's pretty damn cool. I found that, some rope, from Christmas trees past, I assume, and I thought one of those old person grabber hooks. So I can lower the flashlight in there to see what's going on if the glow sticks don't work for whatever reason. It's pretty insane having something like this in my house. To be honest, now that I'm spending time thinking about it, I can't seem to get it out of my mind. Like, what is it for? It's like finding a safe behind a painting and having it be full of feathers. Just totally idiotic. Old houses have quirks, but this just seems excessive. I did a little snooping around online and couldn't find anything quite like my situation. It did remind me of something though. After my brother and I found the door, my dad was really adamant about us not fucking around with it, which I found odd. Because how did he know what was inside? He'd warned us that it was really dangerous and that we didn't know where it led. At the time, I brushed it off, but now I'm wondering if my dad actually got it open and knew it was just a chute to nowhere. If so, why wouldn't he just tell us that? Maybe because he didn't want us to know it could be opened? I really wish I could ask them. This whole thing really makes me miss them. Cue today. Right off the bat, there's something fucking weird going on with this tunnel. Like it was weird to begin with, but I could really use some advice on what to do next. I'm like 110% out of my league. So I got the glow sticks, and I also found some Christmas tree lights. Some of those ones on the end were broken, but luckily it still worked. I didn't know what all I would need, so I brought up a bunch of stuff. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I even had my fucking handgun in a case. Just in case some rabid bats or whatever flew out. Stupid, but I'm so freaked out about dead bodies and rats and shit that I just had to bring it with me. Thanks a lot for that. The other stuff was just things I figured I'd need, like a first aid kit and a few more marbles. I used a book to brace the door open and I tried to be pretty systematic with my tests. First was the marble. I did one and listened really, really carefully, but I still couldn't hear anything hit. Then I broke a glow stick and dropped it in there. It fell and fell. It didn't hit bottom. It just kept falling until I couldn't see anything. Now, I'm not a fucking genius, but I should be able to see that even if it's in the basement, right? The house is 2 stories, with the attic as maybe a half story. There's no way it can be deep enough to lose the glow sticks in. I dropped the entire fucking pack down there. Nothing. Wherever they're going, it's not visible from the attic. So, I broke out the string of Christmas lights and got them working. I lured them in to see what would happen. With the added light, I could see that the walls are paneled with wood most of the way down, at what I'd guess is the basement level. It appears to stop. I don't know what it's made of after that. What I do know is that I had about 20 feet of light in there before the lowest bulbs blew out. So I hauled the string back up and saw that they literally blew out. The bulbs were shattered, and while the string was admittedly very cold, it is winter here, and I imagine that the space isn't heated, possibly a faulty wire or something in there, but it's just another weird thing in this chain of weird things. Which leads me back to something I noticed the first time I really examined it. The short side of the tunnel isn't that noticeable at first, but it looks like as the tunnel goes down, it gets much more pronounced, but the width stays the same. I think it's curving, but I still can't decide if that's an intentional thing or not. Again, no markings of any kind. No nails, no brackets inside. I did confirm that it is a ladder that I can see. It goes down as far as I could get my light to see it. I think that the time for me to go down is fast approaching. But that begs the question of how to do it without killing myself. Should I use a rope? Get a harness of some kind? I'll have to do some more research. Maybe ask my friend who's more outdoorsy than me. Oh, I got some private messages asking me about my parents, and if I think that they might have gotten killed by something in there. I'd like to clarify a few things about that. My parents were really great people, even though we had some hard times. Things got especially tough when I was a little kid. Maybe in the 6th grade, my dad lost his job, and things were tight. His relationship with my mom really suffered. It seems like he got very distant and not cold, really, just kind of distant. Things got better once he got a job at a construction site, but he and my mom didn't seem to really click the same way anymore. That's not to say that they weren't happy, but I'm sure the emotional toll, if not providing for us, was a big blow to him. I'd left for college, and after that I didn't hear much about their relationship. I'd go home for the holidays and stuff, but everything seemed mostly fine. Well, then my mom got sick, and Dad completely turned a corner. He wanted to be by her side constantly. He was always checking up on her and making sure she was okay. Her cancer, unfortunately, was very widespread, and there was very little the doctors could do for her. Once it was obvious we were looking at palliative care instead of a cure, Dad's health started to take a turn for the worst. He was very closed-mouthed about his own illness, probably because he didn't want us to worry. The only time he ever even hinted at it was when he made it clear that if something happened to him, he wanted us to move on and not mourn for him. It was really a hard time. Both of my parents were basically dying, and there was jack shit I could do. My mom passed away about a year after getting diagnosed, and in her will, she made it clear she didn't want us to see her body. And I'm sure people will think it's some kind of way for us to prevent seeing the real her, but the truth is that she wanted us to remember her alive, not as a body. We had her cremated and spread the ashes in her garden. Shortly after, I got a call at school from my brother letting me know that Dad had passed away as well. Same deal. Cremation and spreading the ashes where we spread Mom's. Maybe it's melodramatic, but I couldn't help but think, like, I'm an orphan now. That's why I don't like to talk about it much. My dad wasn't the best person, but I loved him, and he never did anything to hurt me or my brother. Everything he did, I know he did out of love for us. The only time he ever got mad at us was when we really fucked up. Like when he warned us not to play around the tunnel. We ended up ignoring him at first, but when he caught us, he was livid. He probably knew that we could have really hurt ourselves. He was really caring like that. He took care of Mom to the very end and died right behind her. I remember once, after we knew that the cancer was fatal, he did all this research to try and find out exactly how much time she had left. I asked him why, and he said he wanted to know, down to the minute, how long he had with her, so he could be by her side the entire time. In the end, it was pretty close, off by a couple of weeks, but still, that's how well he knew her. That's why I say none of us were really surprised when he got sick. Well, back to thinking about the tunnel. I think I'm gonna go down it. The more I think about it, and the more I kind of just want to solve it, so I can stop thinking about all this shit. There's so much emotional stuff tied up in it that I really just want to solve it once and for all, so I can go back to my normal life. For some reason, it feels like I'm just spiraling downward into these memories, and it's kind of overwhelming. Maybe I never really grieved for them. I don't know. Anyway, I'll probably go down tomorrow night. I'll call a friend and tell him to hang out with me just in case I fall and kill myself or something, or fall into a pile of corpses. Either way, it'll be good to have someone there.